Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on starting the year off right with RightCapital. I hope you've all had a fantastic new year, had a great time with the holidays. Maybe you all had some time off. With all that being said, we're glad to have you back, and we'll go over all of the different updates for starting the year off with RightCapital. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to be recapping any of those new year changes. We're going to talk about updated tax parameters, best practices for starting off the year with some cleanly updated plans so you can best support your clients in 2026. Not only are we going to review all the updated parameters, we're going to talk about updating client info, and then we'll also talk about some best practices for even getting info from your clients. We have some resources to generate some client reach outs just so we can get all the necessary information for these client plans. Let us dive right in. I'm going to jump into my Allison Whitmore plan here. And this is just going to be the sample plan that we're walking through as I'm navigating through the different areas of the software to help you navigate where you would have to update your specific client plans. So we're going to start off with more of the logistical items in terms of our updated numbers here. And the first area I want to direct your attention to is going to be updates to those current account contributions. So contribution limits, anything that has been updated for things like 401k, IRA, HSA accounts, anything like that, we are going to discuss. So I'm going to direct your attention to the profile tab. If you are going to be looking at updating any account contributions, specifically, we're going to be within the profile savings tab. If anybody's not familiar with adding contributions into their accounts, we're going to click the Add Savings button, and you have an option for, depending on what type of savings account you're looking to adjust or enter, we have options here. You'll notice if you do have a 401k savings account or a contribution entered in the system here, if I click into it, we have the ability to target the maximum contribution. So if you are with a client, working with a client that utilizes the maximum contribution, RightCapital is going to update this for you automatically and account for the new 401k contribution limit, which was increased from 2025 at 23,500 to 24,500 in 2026 for the client contribution amount. We also did see a bit of an increase for the catch-up. If your client is age 50 and above, that went up from $7,500 to $8,000. And then we did see no change with the extra catch-up from ages 60 to 63, where that I believe remained at 11,250. So no changes there. However, just wanted to go over those 401k limits as that's a very common account that we're seeing changes to, and a lot of our clients are having these 401k accounts here. So we're going to see those contribution limits updated for you. I also want to highlight an area within our help center that's going to discuss not just the 401k contribution limits, but all of the contribution limits for the account types that have relevant contribution limits, and that's within our help center. So I'm going to X out of this really quick. The fastest way to get to our help center is the chat feature in the bottom corner of your screen, and then just select Search Our Help Center. One of the best resources for navigating savings contribution limits is going to be our savings. If you notice, I'm typing the word saving in the search bar of our help center. The help center is filled with a lot of keywords. So typically, if you type in the word within the title of the module that you're looking for, a lot of resources related to that specific module will populate for you. We're specifically going to look at this savings module overview, and we can see here this is going to include default savings cards, so our 401k, our taxable, and then we can see here as we're scrolling down, we do have our contribution limits entered for us. Now, bear with us, it's the second day of the year. We do have to update these Help Center articles manually, so our team is going in here and updating these, which you will see all these changes in the next week or so as we're going through and updating these. So you will see the 2026 numbers fully updated in here very soon. We also have changes to our, IRA contributions as well. So if I scroll down here, we can see, the different IRA options between traditional, SEP, and simple IRAs, and all those limits will be updated as well. We did see an increase to traditional IRA contributions from 7,000 to 7,500 in 2026, and there is a bit of an increase to that catch-up contribution for ages 50 and above, where it was 1,000, and now it's up to 1,100. We're also going to see an increase in the deductibility phase outs. So if you do have clients who are concerned about the ability to deduct those IRA contributions, we will have that information included in the help center here as well. So you can check on that and just cross-check with your clients, changing salaries maybe, just to see what sort of limits they might run into with those changes in the new year. In a similar vein as well, we did see updated changes to the Roth IRA income limits, which are going to be displayed within this Help Center article as well. So for clients that are concerned, especially those high earners who are maybe close to that phase out of Roth IRA contributions, we're going to see some updated changes there that our clients can pay attention to. And we can just be sure to really point out if we are having those conversations with our clients in the new year. And again, the Help Center articles are updated manually. So within the next week, you will see these numbers fully updated in every different article that we have. So we have quite a few different articles on savings and contribution limits. So you will see those be updated. Another thing that's not going to be listed in this Help Center article, but it is worth mentioning that there is an increase to the IRS compensation limit. That went up from 350,000 to 360,000, so a $10,000 increase there. That might not be relevant for all of our clients, but for those high earners, it's definitely something to just be aware of and pay attention to, especially if you're going to be meeting with them in the new year. That being said, again, this resource is our savings module overview. Let me scroll back up to the top here. I apologize if I'm making anybody dizzy with the scrolling, but again, this is our savings module overview, and this is going to go over all those different limits here as we're making those changes in the new year. Let me pop back over to my account within RightCapital here. And the other area I want to discuss that's also going to include some changes in the new year is going to be Social Security. So we did see some updates to Social Security. If you're entering Social Security in RightCapital, this is going to be done in the Profile Income tab instead of the Savings tab, which we were just looking at. You do have Social Security for both the client and the co-client. For anybody who's not familiar, you do enter this separately if you do have a multi-client plan. If it's just a single client plan, we'll just see one here. I'll just go ahead and open up Allison's so we can take a look at the different options. This is mainly, the updates, I should say, are mainly going to impact, clients that are utilizing one of two options here. Either if we're using the simple estimate, and the simple estimate for calculating a Social Security benefit is going to look to the salary. In RightCapital, it's going to look to the salary and utilize that salary number here to generate a simple forward and backward projection to generate those historical covered earnings, and that's going to be used to generate a simple Social Security benefit for this client. The other option that we're going to see impacted by these Social Security updates is going to be based on our historical covered earnings. So if we do have historical covered earnings information entered within the system here, we can see our calendar years open up and we can enter that historical covered earnings information. We will also see this impacted with these new updates here. You may see some changes in the differences that is generated within Social Security. So if I do leave it on simple estimate and I hit save here, when we do go to the retirement cash flows, and then our income inflows, when we are looking at Social Security, we're going to see these items update, and we might see this due to increases in those PIA bend points, so our primary insurance amount bend points. And we actually do have a Help Center article that's going to go over this as well. And I'm going to be bouncing into the Help Center a lot because these are numbers that we're not going to remember off the top of our head. So I just want to ensure that everybody understands where to find these resources, and navigating the Help Center is going to be a great way to find what we're looking for. So If I just search PIA here, as I mentioned, a lot of keywords within our help center. So we're going to find our primary insurance amount dash Social Security article here. And this is just going to outline the calculation of the PIA as well as explain the bend points here. So if I scroll down a little bit, we can see a uh, breakdown of how the PIA is calculated, and then we can also see those bend points. Again, we're updating those Help Center articles, so bear with us just a moment as we get those out, but we will have these all outlined for you in the next week or so. So this is where you're going to find this information, again, of the back end calculation, how RightCapital is factoring that information. And then we also have some more information on PIA recomputation if anybody's interested on some additional information there. You may also see an impact due to increases on the family max. We do have a Help Center article on the family max, a benefit amount within Social Security. So if you do have multiple individuals filing based on a single earnings record, there is a limit to the number of benefits that can be claimed. So in this article, we can find a similar calculation. We see here we're outlining the formula is similar to the formula used to compute the primary insurance amount. And of course, between this article and the PIA article, hopefully that's going to be enough information to answer any questions you might have on how RightCapital is handling those changes. However, if you do ever have any questions, not only can you ask them in the webinar here, but we do have a fantastic support team that is more than happy to support you on any additional questions you might have regarding that area as well. Let's see here. There was one other item that was impacted within Social Security, and that was going to be an increase to the Social Security benefit base. That went up from 176,000 or just above 176,000 to 184,500 for 2026. This is going to be the upper income limit that is used for the Social Security portion of FICA taxes, as well as the upper income limit for the PIA calculation that we were just talking about for those monthly benefits at full retirement age. That being said, those are going to be the items that are updated for 2026 that are impacting Social Security. So just to recap that, as I know I spit a lot of numbers and Help Center articles at you, that was going to be our PIA, primary insurance amount increases, family max increases, as well as that Social Security benefit base. Here in the cash flows summary, income inflows is where we're going to see those projected Social Security benefits. So you might notice them looking a little bit different this year than they did last year. Another area that I want to cover that is also going to be impacted by the updates for the new tax parameters in 2026 is going to be our Medicare calculations. If you're entering Medicare into RightCapital, or if you're curious on where to find Medicare, we're going to go back to our Profile tab. You're going to notice a theme here that we're going to do everything within the Profile tab as this is our current plan. So we're updating that base case, right? And then within the Medicare tab, or within the Profile tab, we're going to find Medicare under Goals in the Retirement Health Cost card. Now, by default, RightCapital is going to use this health cost national average. This is an average we get from a Fidelity healthcare study. However, if we are injecting Medicare premium calculations into RightCapital, these are going to impact, or these accounts are going to be impacted by the Medicare updates if we're using the detailed estimate option within the cost estimate. So if your client and co-client are using the detailed estimate, this is where we're going to start to see changes to their Medicare premium calculations if we are looking at these client plans. We're going to see an impact on the standard premiums for Part B and D. We can see here they're estimated based on AGI. RightCapital is going to handle the estimation for you, but we are going to see an increase on those premiums. This is going to also give us control over pre-Medicare and out-of-pocket costs. So if we do need to make adjustments to that as well, versus Part B and D, which is going to, again, be estimated on that AGI. Now, if you want to see the adjustments to the Medicare premium tax brackets, which we also saw an increase to. We can see that within the tax tab. So if I'm going to go out of this retirement health cost card, again, this is how we're turning on those Medicare premiums. And let me make sure I'm turning them on. So when we go over there, that makes sense for us. But we're going to do that again using the detailed estimate in the retirement health cost card. And then if we're going to take a look at those Medicare premium tax brackets, we have a very helpful visual in the tax strategies calibration tab. Within the chart title, we have a couple different options. I have Medicare premium tax brackets selected for us here. And then if I hover my cursor over the graph here within the very first year that Medicare is injected into this plan, we can see the brackets and the changes here. So let me just zoom in so we can see a little bit better. But for example, that very first bracket, that green dot, when I'm hovering my cursor over, it did increase from $88 a month to $96 a month. So we did see increase to those thresholds for each tax bracket. This is also inflated over time, so we do have inflation assumptions affecting this as well, looking at future dollars, and I'm going to touch on inflation in a moment as well. But just to show you where you can find this information in the system, we do have the Medicare premium tax bracket visual here, again, showcasing that increase to each of those thresholds. Excellent. Fantastic. All right. So on top of this, some additional tax parameters, not only with the Medicare premium increases and the thresholds, we're also going to see some adjustments to our ordinary income tax bracket. We're going to stay right in this calibration tab. I'm going to click on my drop down, and we're going to look at our ordinary income tax bracket. For anybody who's not familiar, a quick tip, if you are doing Roth conversions within this module, or if you just want to see all the different brackets, you can click the legend down at the bottom to hide specific tax brackets. So I just clicked all of them so we can see every single one here. But in this case for 2026, we didn't see any changes to the bracket percentages themselves, but we did see some changes to the income thresholds. So we're going to be able to see the increased income bracket thresholds, very similar to Medicare. If we hover our cursor over the graph here within this first year, we can see the adjustments for what these bracket thresholds are going to be. We also have very similar information for capital gains. So we did see a slight increase to the capital gains brackets. Again, the percentages themselves didn't change, but we are seeing the thresholds themselves with a slight increase. So hovering your cursor over the very first year of the chart is going to showcase the values for 2026 in that year. Now, again, we are inflating this using our inflation assumptions. So as you hover your cursor over the later years, we're going to see inflation applied to this, but the very first year is going to be the numbers that are accurate and have been released and updated in the system for 2026. Speaking of taxes, we'll stay on the same topic. We also did see a change to our standard deduction. So under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, we did see an increase to the standard deduction. If you're curious where we can find the standard deduction within a RightCapital plan, we can do this within the tax estimate tab, details, and if we scroll down to, we're looking at our Mach 1040 here on line 12, we are going to see our updated standard deduction. And I wanted to highlight this nicely so we can see it, but it's taken me a couple of tries. So we did see an increase again under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. We went up from a $30,000 standard deduction to $32,200, and that's reflected for this plan. This is for married filing jointly. We do have a married filing separately or a single filing household client. We do have that information updated in the system as well. This just happens to be a dual client plan, so we're showing married filing jointly. For anybody who is interested in seeing all of the parameters that have changed for anything under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it was a large bill encompassing a lot of changes I know we're all aware of. We do have a Help Center article, and like I said, I'm going to be bouncing into the Help Center quite a bit. We do have a Help Center article on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that is an overview of all the changes. So we can see here our standard deduction, and this is going to be changed again for 2026. So bear with us just a moment to get that information out for you guys. But we are seeing that increase to the standard deduction here. We also saw some changes to the estate tax exemption. This is updated where from in 2025, we were just shy of 14 million for our estate exemption, and now we are seeing 15 million in 2026. So that is updated. If you are doing estate planning with your clients, we can see that information here in case this is going to be relevant for your specific client situation. Excellent. This article is super helpful as well regarding all of the changes, like I mentioned, for anything under that One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So, for anybody who is really interested in kind of getting these numbers really well digested, again, feel free to search in the Help Center. You can see I just typed in the beginning of the bill and it's already popping up for us. So, just really highlighting navigating the Help Center and how to best find the information you're looking for. But again, so that's going to include the major updates for our tax parameters. So just to review, the major Help Center articles that are going to help you find the information. Of course, you are not limited to the Help Center. Ask questions in the webinar. You have our support team as well. But we were looking at that savings module overview to take a look at the increased contribution limits for the accounts. We are handling those for you. But just to be aware of those changes, we have that in our savings module overview. We also had our primary insurance amount that affected Social Security calculations if you're using the simple estimate or historical covered earnings. We also saw an increase to the family max benefit here under Social Security as well. And then we also just took a look at that One Big Beautiful Bill Act overview as well for any changes, again, with the standard deduction, estate tax, depending on what's relevant for your client situation. So just wanted to give a quick overview of those Help Center articles that we looked at to kind of just overview those tax bill parameters. Now, I know that was a lot of information, so sorry if your eyes kind of glazed over there while we were talking about all those different numbers and changes within your client plans. But let's get out of the Help Center here. I'll back into my client plan, and there's a couple of different settings that I also want you to keep in mind that are going to be relevant for the new year as well. So we'll step away from tax parameters and numbers and all those logistical items, and we'll go over to our gear icon settings tab here and take a look at within this client plan, what are some specific settings that we need to pay attention to for the turn of the new year. The first one, and I mentioned this a little bit when I was talking about the tax tab within those calibration charts. We saw the capital gains tax bracket, the Medicare premium tax bracket, and the ordinary income tax bracket. We're going to see those inflated out by our assumptions. Now we are showcasing the very first year and then assuming an increase. So I'd just like to make all of our advisors aware of the inflation assumptions and how relevant these are going to be to our plans. The inflation assumptions that you see on my screen are the defaults within RightCapital. We can see we have 5 different ones: general inflation, education inflation, tax inflation, healthcare costs, and Social Security. You do have the ability to customize these for an individual client plan if you would like. However, you can also continue to use the RightCapital default, but the option is there for you if you want to make any changes. Tax inflation is going to apply to those tax bracket thresholds and contribution limits, for example, and Social Security inflation is going to apply to those bend points and that Social Security wage base. Healthcare cost is going to apply into that healthcare cost, annual healthcare cost card we were looking at, and any health associated expenses within your plan. Education will apply to our education goals, education costs as well. And then general is going to apply to most incomes, expenses, and goals, as well as anything set to grow at general inflation within the data entry under the profile tab. So just like to give a nice overview of those inflation assumptions as they are quite relevant to showcase the growth on the projections within the plan. While we're in the settings, I also want to take a look at our tax assumptions. We have a few different tax assumptions here, but one of the big ones I want to point out is going to be all the way at the bottom here. we do have the ability to check this box off under other, and that's going to allow us to specify the prior year's magi. This is going to be useful if clients have student loans on an income-driven repayment plan. We know there is a 1-year look back for calculating the income-driven repayment amounts. And then we also have the ability to enter Magi from 2 years ago, as there is going to be a 2-year look back on that detailed estimate. So when we were in that annual healthcare cost card for retirees, we do select detailed estimate, if you remember, to get the Medicare calculations into the system. So if we are utilizing that option, there is a 2-year look back. So we do give you that option to enter those numbers in the system here, so we can get a little more accurate on the very first year of the projection. So if this is something that maybe you weren't aware of and want to start utilizing within RightCapital, or if you updated it last year and need to update it in this year, this is a good reminder to go in here and do that as well for your client plans. When you do make any changes in the settings as well, be sure to hit the save button in the bottom corner. There's nothing worse than going through your client plans and making updates and not hitting save on anything, and then we have to go back and enter all that information again. So always happy to just point out that save button. I am a culprit many times, even on webinars, of making changes and not hitting save. So always great to just take a look at that. But again, this is going to be helpful for you if you are having clients with student loans or that Medicare premium calculation in the detailed estimate. Excellent. Now, there is another setting that I would like to direct your attention to, and that's actually going to be under the methodology tab here. I'm going to show you my cash flow in simulation start setting. This is going to be the setting that indicates to RightCapital when do we want our cash flows to begin. It is a very common practice for advisors to utilize January 1st of next year as we're entering the end of the year in the previous year. So in 2025, around November, December, when the year's starting to end, we're going to switch the cash flow simulation to January 1st of next year. So now that the turn of the new year has begun, we can always switch this back to January 1st of this year. And that's just going to reset the calculation now that, or the simulation, now that we are in the beginning of 2025. So that projection is a little more accurate. For anybody who's not familiar with this setting, it's directly going to impact our cash flow simulation again. So I'm going to click on my retirement tab and then my cash flows. And we can see here the very first year. Here is an example of not hitting the save button. This is why we hit the save button. So we make the change here and refresh my screen just to make sure my RightCapital has gotten that change. And we're going to adjust. Oh my gosh, it's 2026. Here I am thinking it's 2025. We have gotten caught in real time. So we did hit save. It's 2026. I was looking for 2025 again. If we were in January 1st of next year, we would see 2027 be the first year of the projection. So whew, I know we're all going to be writing 2025 on any paperwork for the first month of the new year, as we all do, trying to just remember that we're in a new year. We're all human, aren't we? But anyway, we do also have Help Center articles on the settings as well. So just popping back into the Help Center again. If I do take a look at my cash flow setting, for example, I can just start typing cash flow and simulation starts. And we can see here, this is the knowledge base that pops up for us. So if you do have any deeper questions on, what does it mean to use January 1st of next year versus January 1st of this year? We even have our current month, a rolling 12 months, which is going to use the current month as the start of the cash flow projection. So not necessarily relevant for January. However, if we do, jump into February, that will be a little more of a viable option for us. Excellent. So that is our Help Center. Let me go ahead and close some of these tabs so I don't have too much going on here. That's going to be some settings to keep in mind. So again, that was our cash flow and simulation starts. Some of our tax assumptions in terms of specifying magi for previous years, and then our inflation assumptions, which are relevant for projections within RightCapital. I want to also touch on some best practices now for updating the client plan, right? So we talked about the updated tax parameters. I also should mention let me circle back just a moment here. We all utilize return assumptions within RightCapital. We have the forward-looking assumptions from JP Morgan, as well as the historical index returns. Let me pop out to my advisor portal here just to show you exactly what those are. Now, this won't take a lot of time, but if I'm going into my More menu in my advisor portal and assumptions, just to remind anybody, again, we have our historical index return for our return assumptions, and these are based off of 20 to 50 years of historical index return data. We also have forward-looking assumptions, and these are derived from our JP Morgan's Capital Market Assumptions Report. These are updated on an annual basis. So now with the turn of the new year, our product team has gone in here and updated these return assumptions as well. So should there have been any necessary changes, you will see the updated numbers here. And I just wanted to point that out for anybody who might have had any questions on if the historical or the forward-looking assumptions were updated. I can confirm that they were. Excellent. Now that we've got that out the way, we've got all of our, logistical number, tax parameters out the way, and some important settings to pay attention to. I want to now get into some best practices on updating our client plans and some best ways to make sure we're not missing anything that might need to be updated or even deleted. So let's navigate back to our profile tab. I'm sure you're getting the hang of it now, where we're going to be spending all of our time in the profile tab. And I'm going to actually start in the blueprint. Now, when we are updating our client plans, we can go through and navigate to each of the different tabs here and go through one by one and make those adjustments. But I almost like to start in the blueprint, as this is going to display a lot of information in one screen. So it's a great way to easily spot check a plan and make sure that all of the inputs are accurate. If anybody's not familiar with the blueprint, this is going to be pulling all the information entered over in the Profile Net Worth tab. So our bank accounts, our loans, our liabilities, our primary homes, if you have businesses or insurance policies, these are all going to display in this Net Worth tab here. It is fully interactive. So if you're realizing maybe Frederick's bank account is less or more than it should be, you can always click into it and make the adjustment right from the screen. So we can update this as needed. We can make adjustments to joint held accounts, update the balances, even the asset allocations. You can do this all from one screen here. If we have to remove anything from the plan, you can delete items right from this area as well. And if we have to add anything brand new, maybe they opened up a new Roth IRA account for 2026, we can add the new account here. Add account, investment, and we can throw in that new Roth IRA right from this screen, depending on what they're starting with for the new year. If you have integrated accounts or linked accounts from clients, so if your clients are using the client aggregation feature here, or they are using integrated accounts, this is going to remain updated as normal. Nothing will change on the integration update sync. Client aggregation will continue to update as normal. So that might save you some time if you do have those accounts in there, less manual updating. But if you do have a lot of manual accounts, be sure to go in here and just take a look, make sure everything's accurate. I love the blueprint for this, as it's just all in one screen and you don't have to click around too much. On top of this, we also have our goals timeline. Our goals timeline is broken out either in the board view here or the timeline view. The timeline view is going to showcase the timeline of all the goals entered within the plan as we get closer and closer to the end of the planning horizon. This is going to allow us to see any goals. We can adjust any existing goals. We can add new goals depending on what sort of new ideas the client has for their financial future within this new year. Another great thing to pay attention to with the goals tab is that the timeline is not going to display past goals. However, the board view will display past goals. So if you do have any items from the past that we are maybe not going to be continuing in the future, or they're not relevant and we just want to delete things to clean up the plan, a great idea is to just take a look at the timeline. And then if we notice any goals in the board view that aren't in the timeline, that's probably indicating to us that this is within the past. So if I take a look for example, we see Allison's car here is in the board view, but it's not in the timeline anywhere. So if I go back to my board view and I click on the CAR goal, we can see here that this goal starts in 2025, so it's a bit outdated. Either we can update the new goal if we want to bring this into 2026, or we can remove it from this client plan if it's not relevant anymore. So just to, again, another helpful tip and trick to update the client plans. Lastly, here we have income, savings, and expenses, just spot checking the client plan again. If the salary remains the same, those account contributions, if they're remaining the same, and then our expenses as well. So great way, instead of going through, the income, savings, and expenses in all three different tabs, we can do it right from here in one shot. Excellent. So great review when it comes to client plans. The settings that we talked about within the gear icon settings tab, and then spot checking the blueprint to ensure that the baseline plan and information is accurate. You may need to reach out to your client to get this new info. Do so however you like. However, RightCapital does have a few tools that can help. If you do need some client reach out, we can help you with that. So let me go ahead here and just point out that if we are going to be utilizing these resources to reach out to our client, specifically, we're going to take a look at tasks and the vault. We can assign tasks to our clients to get things completed, and we can set up vault folder structures so we can ensure we're getting the right relevant documents from our clients. If you are going to be utilizing these features, you do have to invite your client to RightCapital. For anybody who's not familiar how to invite their client to RightCapital, we're going to want to click on the RightCapital logo or your logo if you've uploaded it in the upper corner. We'll get back out to our advisor portal. If you're going to invite your client, we're going to find our client within the advisor portal here. We're going to click on client access. You'll have the ability here to enter your client's email and then select invite. That's going to send them an email prompting them to access RightCapital. They will have to create a password. Their username will be the email, so they'll have to create a password. And then from there, you can give them access to the software. You do have some client portal settings down below. So if you do want to give them control over what they can and cannot update, you can also prompt them to do updates themselves within the system. You also have control over how your client interacts with the action items. So when it comes to updating client plans, it's really going to be relevant that they can update profile information. When it comes to interacting with the action items, that's going to be more for our what if scenarios and different proposals within maybe retirement analysis. So you can have a little more structure on how you want the client to access that area of the software. We also want to make sure that the clients actually have access to the tasks feature and the vault. So within the planning access tab, you're going to see all of the different modules available within RightCapital, and the ones that are checked off are the ones that the client are going to be able to see. So we just want to make sure that the client actually does have access to the vault. If they do not have access to the vault, they're not going to be able to see the vault as an option for them to upload documents to. And we also want to give them access to tasks. So if you do have to check these things off, feel free, be sure to hit save at the bottom. And then if you're ever curious on what the client is able to see when they access their client plan, you do have the ability right next to this open client feature, we have open in client access mode by clicking the drop down caret. So if you do open the plan in client access mode, this is only going to show us the modules that we have selected available for the client to see. In this case, I did give them access to the tasks tab, and then we also have the vault here as well. So just important again to remember when you are utilizing these features that we have the client invited and we have their planning access relevant to the modules we need them to utilize. Let me pop back into Allison's plan here and I will navigate to the tasks tab. So the tasks tab is found under the dashboard module. Right now, I don't have any tasks within the system. However, we can add tasks by clicking the Add Task button here. You can add a single task, this is one at a time, or you can upload task templates. I do have a task template here that I've created as a sample to showcase some helpful use cases of tasks that we've seen advisors send to clients to get information for the new year. So if I click on this here, we can see the different tasks available to us within the template that I've created. And I'll go into how you can create templates in a moment. But if I do select this as an option, I'm going to hit save here, and this is going to upload all of the tasks for us. Just to give you some visibility options, we can look at the table view or we can look at the board view. So depending on how you want to look at the tasks and structure them, we can see those here. We have a drop down here to look at current versus completed tasks. So you can see as well, just keeping track of what the client has or hasn't done. A really good example of the first task here would be uploading the most recent loan and account statements to the vault. So if you do assign this task to your client, they will get a notification when they log into their RightCapital account here, prompting them, hey, you have a task from your advisor. They'll be able to see it, open it up, and see exactly what it is they need to do. Within the task itself, you can adjust the due date, you can adjust the frequency, who we're assigning it to. So you can assign it to just the client or just the co-client or both. You also can adjust the priority. I do have a couple tasks in here with different priorities, but we can indicate if it's a high priority task or a low priority task. And then you can also hide a task from the client. So you have the ability to assign tasks to yourself as the advisor if you have specific things that you need to complete within the client plan. And maybe we don't want the clients to see that, so we do have the ability to make that invisible to the client. So for example, like I mentioned, that first one, uploading the most recent account statements to the vault so we can ensure that our client plans are accurate from the advisor side. We can also invite the clients to navigate to the blueprint and review certain items. So if we want them to do some of the data entry and the updating themselves, we can kind of provide them with a guide on how to complete that. And this might be something more high priority that we need them to complete, right? Because the more accurate the data entry within the baseline plan, the more accurate our projections are going to be, and the more accurate the probability of success will look within the retirement tab. Another really helpful one is going to be prompting the client to think about their financial goals. Maybe we can create a meeting here and just figure out what it is they're planning for. If there's anything that's changed, what do we have to adjust the plan for in the future? And then at the very bottom here, I have some of these invisible tasks. I have some of these invisible tasks here that are going to be for the advisor, right? So I have reaching out to the client for a happy new year and scheduling another meeting. So something for us to pay attention to, as well as spot checking the profile blueprint, like we talked about a moment ago for accuracy. So again, these are just some examples here. If we're going to add a single task, just to show you what that looks like, it's pretty straightforward here. Adding a single task, we can adjust that frequency, the due date, who we're assigning it to, a priority, and if it's visible or not to the client. So we can do that. And we can add this to the task template. So we have our template uploaded, but if there's something we forgot, we can add another task here. And I'm just going to add a quick one. We can assign it to Allison and Frederick. And we'll go ahead and hit save there. And that'll be another one. So just because you do a template doesn't mean you can't add additional tasks as well. Let's also talk about assigning tasks to multiple clients at once. So back out in my advisor portal here, instead of within a specific client plan, navigating to the templates tab within the tasks tab, we do have the ability here to create task templates out in the advisor portal. So if you're going to add a new template, just to show you what it looks like to add different templates to the system, we'll click New Template here. You have the ability to rename the template by clicking the three dots icon and then rename. So you can title this template, whatever is easiest for you to keep track of. And then from here, we can add the different tasks to the client. Now you can assign it to the client and the co-client. And then once you do assign this to a client plan, within the client plan, that'll change to the client's names, of course. We can adjust that priority and then just uploading tasks to the vault could be one here. And this is how we're going to create that task template. So when we do go back into our client plan, for example, if I just jump into a sample plan here and I'm within my tasks tab, the new template that we created is going to be down at the bottom available for us to assign here. So just an example of showcasing how you can create those templates as well, and not just use cases for those different tasks. Excellent. Let me pop back into my Allison Whitmore plan here. Where is she? Perfect. And let's talk about the Vault module. So we talked about tasks, how we can get our clients into RightCapital and completing different items for us, depending on what we need them to do. We can also utilize the Vault feature in the upper corner here. This is going to include a shared folder and a private folder that we can get information from the clients to. The shared folder is going to be a folder that both you can see as the advisor and that the client can see. You also have a private folder, and the client has a private folder. So if you are uploading documents to the private folder, your client will not be able to see them. And if your client uploads documents to the private folder, you will not be able to see them. The vault looks the same from the advisor and the client view. So if you're curious what the client's going to see, it's exactly the same on their end. It's just that their private folder is visible to them. And the shared folder, of course, includes everything. Within the shared folder, you can create different folders to get specific information from the clients. So we can get a specific folder for account statements. Hit the check mark on the side here to ensure that this is a title that is saved. The A next to the file icon indicates that the advisor has created this folder. So just for anybody who might be confused on what that little signal might be there. And then once the client navigates into their vault, they can click into account statements. And then from there, they can add a file from their computer and upload that to the vault. We do have some specific vault parameters. So if anybody is looking to upload documents to the vault, they should be in PDF format. But we do have a Help Center article on the vault that goes over all of the different parameters when it comes to adding files here. We also want to make sure there is no limit to the total number of files, but individual files must be under 25 MB in size. So in case you're uploading anything really, really big and you're getting a notification, just notice that there is a size on each individual file, but there is no limit to the total number of files you can actually have within the vault. A really helpful way to organize a vault storage so that way every client has a comprehensive vault structure when it comes to the different folders. We can create vault templates, and that's actually something we can do out in the advisor portal again. So I'm going to click on my logo on the upper corner here. I'm going to go to my templates tab and then the vault. From here, I have an example of a vault template that we can utilize. This is going to include something like tax documents, investment account statements, and legal documents. Again, your clients can come in here, click into them, and upload the files as necessary. You can apply the template right from the screen, which is really nice too. So we'll click Apply Template, and then from there, you can apply this to specific client groups. You can apply it to all clients at once if we just want one standard vault structure throughout your entire book of clients, or you can select a couple different clients at once. So depending on who you're selecting, we can assign this to individual clients on a client-by-client basis as well. So super helpful to get this all into the client plan. Let's go ahead and X this out here. And just to show you, we'll assign this to Allison so you can see when we're applying to the client plan. This is going to apply a template to create all of the folders and subfolders. This is not going to override any current folders you have in a client plan. So we'll see here if I go back into my, oh, Allison has 2 L's in her name. I need to keep remembering that. We'll go back into her vault here. And we can see, so the account statements one that we just created is still here. So you're not going to lose anything that you currently had, but if you have anything new, it will show up in the front here for us. So we have all the different folders available to us. Now, there is one other feature about the vault that I want to showcase, and this is going to be if you want to upload a document to multiple client plans at once. So instead of going in, maybe you have a new year doc that you need to upload to all of your clients. Instead of going through each individual client plan and updating this one by one or uploading it one by one, within the advisor portal, again, I know I'm bouncing around a bit here, there is a vault folder here. Within the Shared Documents tab, you can create a folder and add a file, which is going to upload this to all client plans at once. So if you want all client plans to have maybe that New Year document folder, we can create that. And then from here, we have the access control option, which is going to allow us to assign this to multiple clients at once. So if we want to upload a file for a lot of clients to see, we can have this created for all clients and they will be able to see it in their shared documents folder. So we're allowing for a bit of a bulk upload here to save you time in the new year. Excellent. And then there's one other area I want to talk about within the system here that is going to be helpful just to reevaluate within the new year, and that's going to be some notification settings. So you'll see here that we have different notifications within the notification settings tab. So depending on what we want to get from our clients, so when they are creating actions in RightCapital, for example, if we have a client signing up using the invitation link, if we want to include this in our daily report email, this is something we can can get to our email. I believe it gets sent out around 11 a.m. Within the hour or so, depending on where you are. That's going to get sent out on a daily basis here. So there are specific things. If maybe example, you want your client, you want to be notified when your client completes a task or when they update a task, or if they update their information, you can get notified every day depending on what your client is changing, of course. So I always just like to point out this notification screen. I know sometimes all these little buttons up at the top go amiss sometimes and we don't click on them. So always great to see these different options when it comes to notifications. We've gone over a lot today. So we talked about notifications, we talked about reaching out to the clients utilizing the vault and the tasks tab. We talked about updating those tax parameters in the system, anything affecting contribution limits, Social Security, Medicare. We have a lot of updates within the system. Our return assumptions were updated. And we also talked about some relevant settings like our cash flow and simulation starts, specifying MAGI for the year, and our different inflation assumptions.